I did not expect my first video to be about this. I thought I would ease into things. Maybe something light. Maybe something about how people say it is what it is, like that's supposed to fix anything. But then I heard something the other day and I could not just scroll past it. I heard that Chuck Norris died. Now, I don't even know if that's true, and honestly, I'm not sure reality would have the courage to confirm it. Because just a few years ago, we were told death had a near Chuck Norris experience. And we all laughed. Of course we did, because that's what Chuck Norris jokes are. They're absurd. They're impossible. They're completely disconnected from anything resembling physics or biology or basic science. But they're also kind of comforting. Because think about how these jokes work. They all follow the same formula. Take a universal law, remove it, and replace it with Chuck Norris. That's it. That's the whole system. Chuck Norris counted to infinity twice. Now, nobody laughs immediately. There's always that half second where your brain goes, well, I mean, if anybody could. That's not a joke. That's a temporary surrender of logic. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down, which means somewhere right now, there could be a slight vibration in your kitchen cabinet, and that's not an earthquake. It's leg day. Chuck Norris can divide by zero. We were taught you can't divide by zero. It breaks math. It breaks reality. Chuck Norris does not break math. Math files a complaint and then withdraws it. And here's the strange part. Nobody argues with this. Nobody raises their hand and says, excuse me, infinity is not a number. No, because somewhere deep down, we believe Chuck Norris has already had that conversation and won. And that's where it gets interesting, because these jokes, they're not just jokes. They're a kind of escape hatch. We live in a world where everything has limits. Everything has consequences. Everything eventually says that's enough. And then along comes Chuck Norris, and none of that applies. Chuck Norris doesn't wear a watch. He decides what time it is. That's funny. And until you realize it's also a fantasy. Every deadline you ever had, every alarm clock, every moment that life said, you're on my schedule, and somewhere inside you, you thought, what if it wasn't? That's what these jokes tap into. Not just absurdity, but possibility. Now, here's the part I can't quite shake. Even hearing something like this as a rumor feels strange, because you realize you weren't just laughing at Chuck Norris. You were relying on him a little. Not the man, the idea. The idea that somewhere in the machinery of reality, there might be an exception. And let's be honest, if Chuck Norris ever did leave this world, I feel like we wouldn't get a press release. It would just be something subtle, like gravity pauses for a second. Time stutters. Your Wi-Fi suddenly starts working better out of respect. Somewhere a calculator just quietly removes the error message. And death? I don't think death would announce it. I think death would just clear its throat and check the room one more time. Because even now, even as a rumor, I'm not entirely convinced this isn't just Chuck Norris testing us, seeing who panics, seeing who believes it, seeing who dares to confirm it publicly. And I, for one, am not volunteering. Because here's what I do know. Even if one day Chuck Norris is gone, the jokes won't be. Chuck Norris can hear sign language. That's not going anywhere. Chuck Norris can slam a revolving door. Physics is still working through that. Chuck Norris once threw a grenade and killed 50 people, then it exploded. That one's got layers. And maybe that's the closest thing we have to stepping outside the rules. Not living forever, but being remembered in a way that feels like you might. So no, I don't know if the news is true, but I do know this. You don't become something like that and just disappear. You become a story, a myth, a punchline that refuses to age. And somewhere, I like to think death is still being careful, just in case.